Okay, so let's talk about the application of the own price elasticity of the demand, specifically about tax incidence. So it only refers to who bears the burden of the tax and not necessarily on whom the tax is imposed. Like, for example, if the government will impose a specific tax of like a peso per liter of gasoline, it doesn't automatically mean that the seller will shoulder the 1 peso, because there is a likely tendency that the consumers will be the one to pay a majority of the tax that is levied, the because gasoline is basically a necessity and there is no substitute for now. Okay. Ad valorem tax simply refers to the tax imposed on the selling price or value of the good. Like, for example, when the train law was implemented a few years back, the minimum amount of tax that the buyers need to pay is around like 4%, and the maximum would be 8%. Okay, so meaning to say, if you're gonna buy a car that's worth like half a million, then you have to pay for 4%. That's gonna be like 20,000 pesos. All right. So that's the difference between the two. Specific is gonna be charged on a per unit basis, like per liter of gasoline, per pack of cigarettes, which is 35 pesos as of the moment, or um, or the alcoholic beverages, which is being charged, I think, according to the alcohol content. Right. So aside from the selling price of the car, which is being taxed by 4 to 8%, we're actually paying value added tax, which is like 12% of the selling price of the good that we're paying in the market. Okay? So, for example, if you're gonna pay like 100 pesos as the total price for the product that you're gonna buy, then you have to like pay 12 pesos, because that's the ad valorem or the value added tax. So there's so many ways for the government to extract taxes, or require people to pay a certain amount, because the government needs more than like 5 trillion for next year for its national budget. So there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? Like, if people who are earning less than 250,000 pesos a year will not pay anything for the tax, then the government has to get it from somewhere else. Like for example, for gasoline, for every liter of gasoline that we're paying, the government will actually be collecting the 10 pesos per liter, or 10 pesos specific tax. Okay? Because the government has to raise again the revenue in order to finance its so many obligations. And now it's very controversial because the Bureau of Internal Revenue is going after those creators, okay, who are gonna like earn money out of YouTube, maybe Facebook, TikTok, or whatever platform that you can think of. But they don't really have to worry, because the BIR will still consider the bracket. Okay, so if you're earning more than 8 million, okay, like for example, you're a very popular content creator, like you're getting like 10 million pesos a year. So the eight with the 8 million pesos, you will actually be paying like 2.41 million pesos to the government. Then the 2 million will actually be charged at 35%. Okay, so we have a progressive type of taxation in the Philippines, meaning to say that the higher the income, the higher will be the tax that you will be paying to the government. Okay, so now let's have the market for gasoline. So let the demand function QD equals 25 minus 0.5p, and the supply function BQS is equal to 20 plus 3p. And we're expressing this one in terms of 1,000 liters per gasoline per day, and P is basically the pesos per liter of gasoline. So to compute the initial equilibrium price and quantity, we need to express the demand and supply equations in terms of the price. So if you have QD is equal to 25 minus 0.5p, how are we gonna express this in terms of the price? You can use the chat box for your answer, or you can just turn on your microphone if you want to answer. So we have here 0.5p is equal to Q, 25 minus QD, right? So what's the value of the P? So P is equal to 50 minus 2Q, right? So if you guys are wondering, we simply transpose the 0.5p, we transfer to the left, right? So that's positive 0.5p is equal to 25 minus q, right? So we simply divide both sides of the equation by 2. So we can have p, sorry, not 2 but zero point 0.5 because that's 0.5p. So p is equal to 25 divided by zero point 0.5, that gives us 50. Then 0.5, 1 divided by zero point 0.5, that gives us 2. All right. So for the quantity supplied equation, we also need to transform this in terms of the P. So this is P is equal to what? Can you provide me with your answer? So negative 20 plus 3P is equal to Q, right? So this is basically Q plus 20 is equal to 3P, right? So dividing both sides of the equation by 3, um, point 1 divided by 3, that gives us 0.33 Q plus 6.67, right? So again, if you guys have questions, you can do it now. You can type in your questions, and I'll be more than willing to answer it. Okay, so we have here the equation for the demand, right? Expressed in terms of the price, and this is actually the equation for the supply expressed in terms of the price. So in order to get the equilibrium condition, we simply equate these two, right? So 50 minus 2Q equals 0.33Q plus 6.67. Please try to answer this one in a piece of paper, so that you guys will be guided. So what will be the Q star? So 50 minus 2Q is equal to 0.33Q plus 6.67, right? So this is basically 50 minus 6.67 equals 43.33, right? So it's like this. So 50 minus 2Q equals 0.36Q plus 0.67. Okay? So according to KISS, the answer is 18.6 or 18.59, right? So we can round this off to 18. Since we have the quantity equilibrium, we can answer P star, right? So how can we derive the price equilibrium? How did you solve your activity? So substitute in either equation, right? So it can be the demand or it can be the supply, right? So you will basically get the same answer if you will be substituting 18.60 to Q. Okay. So what's the value of the P star? Okay, that's correct. So that's 12.80. So 50 minus 2 times 18.60, that's 12.80. Okay? 0.33 Q times 18.60 plus 6.67, that will give you the same answer, which is 12.80. So, suppose that in order to generate more government revenues, a 5 peso specific tax per liter is imposed on sellers. So, how is the amount shared between the buyers and the sellers? So, we all know that the demand for gasoline is a little bit, or not a little bit, but it's very obvious that the elasticity is the quantity demanded is less elastic, right? Compared to other commodities in the market, because again, there's no close substitute for gasoline for now. Okay, so we're gonna add 5 pesos, and the problem is very specific. You need to add 5 pesos per liter on the sellers. So if you look at these equations, we need to put the 5 pesos in the quantity supplied side, right? Because this will be imposed on the sellers. So we basically add plus 5 here and not in the 50 minus 2Q, because we are talking about the suppliers. So we have to look at the quantity which is being supplied, right? So it's not automatic if the government imposes a 5 peso specific tax on sellers that they need to pay like 5 pesos, because again, we have to look at the tax burden, right? So who bears the, or tax incidence, who bears the tax? And it's very obvious that the consumers will borne most of the tax compared to the sellers, because again, the demand is obviously less elastic or inelastic. Okay, so what will be the new supply equation if this will be the case? If the government will be adding 5 pesos specific tax. So we're gonna add 5 pesos here, right? So this is 0.33 Q plus, how much? So we're gonna add here the 5 pesos. We cannot add it here because um, there is a variable here, right? So we can only add the 5 pesos here. So that's 6.67 plus 5. That gives us 11.67. Okay. And the new equilibrium price and quantity after the tax is imposed will be price after tax will be what? Sorry, that's the price after tax. This one. Copy and paste it here. So P sub T is just the new price with the specific tax of 5 pesos, right? So you just need to equate this with here, with this one, with the quantity demanded. Okay, so I'll just delete this one and simply copy this one, right? So it would appear that this is the old or the original um, quantity demanded, and this is the new quantity supplied equation after the tax, right? So this is basically 50 minus 11.67 is equal to 2.33 Q, right? Just have to saying 2 plus 0.33. So according to John, the new quantity equilibrium should be equal to 16.45. Are you guys following? So 50 minus 11.67 equals 2.33 Q. So divide both sides of the equation by 2. We can get Q star T equal to 16.45. And to get the P star with T, again, we simply have to substitute Q to other equations. And we can get here, of course, we expect this to be higher, right? The original is 1280, right? So we expect this to be higher. So P star is equal to the new one with tax. This is equal to 17. Okay. Now let's look at the tax incidence. So how much should be the tax that the consumers will be paying? So how are we going to solve this one? Remember, before the tax is imposed, the buyers are willing to pay at 12.80 pesos because that's the original price equilibrium, right? So with the new tax, it becomes 17.10, right? Okay. So you just have to subtract the new tax equilibrium, the new price equilibrium with tax with the old one, then that's basically the amount of tax that the consumers are willing to pay. So that's just 17.10 minus 12.80. That gives us 4 pesos and 30 cents. And the producers will only pay as low as 0.70 pesos out of the 5 pesos that is being charged by the government. Okay? So again, the the demand for gasoline is less elastic, meaning to say that even if there will be a big change in the price, there will be a little change in the quantity that will be demanded. Because again, it's a necessity and there is no close substitution. Okay, questions? So I'm gonna